Alright, it has been a while. So, I've been gone for a little while, but I'd like to just jump back in if that's okay, and get into my topic on this video, which is going to be about action taking. This video is going to be about a person who takes action rather than a person who actually thinks about taking action and never does. So, in my opinion, someone who takes action in a weird way, like I see a common trend in action takers, and you're going to be surprised to hear what that trend is. But before I get into that, actually, let's talk about someone who is not an action taker. Someone who's an action taker, or is not an action taker, sorry, is someone who's going to be very probably calculated, very jaded, very smart, but smart in a way where they allow their own intellect to be their downfall, in a sense that they come up with so many scenarios. They cover every scenario, every single tactic, every move, which is great until you realize that the moves that you're covering are all in your head and that you're not actually doing any of them on the surface. I just think that a person who's going to be kept in a cage of their own mind is somebody who is never going to, like I said, be kept in a cage of their own mind, so they're never going to set foot in reality. In actuality, they're going to be very usually introverted in a sense that they aren't really good with other people simply because of the fact that they tend to overthink everything around them. And there is a difference between an overthinker and a deep thinker, and I'll get into that in a different video. But overall, I just believe that a person can be their own worst enemy in a sense that they literally will think about every single logical, every scenario that they possibly can and just never take any sort of action. And now that brings me to my second point, someone who is an action taker. Now, I talked about it a second ago, and I see a common trend in people who are action takers. And that common trend is the fact that for some reason, majority of people who are action takers are very stupid. People who take action, people who actually, do the thing they say they're going to do, oftentimes have a very low IQ. And this brings me to a different point that I'll touch on in a later video more, but I'm desperately afraid of stupid people. I'm very afraid of them, in a sense that they are just people who are so unpredictable and just overall act on, you never expect them. You can't really read them, you can't read what they're going to do, they're terrifying. And so those people are often the ones who are going to take the most action out of everyone simply because of the fact that they are so dumb that they do not have an intellectual brain to get in their way. So therefore, they are literally the epitome of someone who will take action in a situation and not even think about it until afterwards or not at all. And I just find that funny, and I find it so ironic that someone who's so people consider dumb, or people consider ungifted, or people consider a waste of energy, are people who are literally that are like the ones who are really acting, the ones who are really making things happen. Granted, those may not be good things. They could be making things happen in a negative way, but I'll give them one thing. They are making something happen. And to all of my geniuses out there, that is something that you really can't say for yourself majority of the time, because like I said, it's so sad, but majority of a genius's downfall is when they're stuck inside their own head and never venture out into using the thoughts that they manifest as ideas into actual actions and calculations of the real world. It's something that catches a lot of people, a lot of very intellectual people who this world will never get to know existed or never get to see the greatness of, simply because of the fact that they would rather stay in their comfort zone of their mind rather than live their ideas in reality. And I just believe that in this world, if you're an action taker, then you're already ahead of the curve. But if you're somebody with a high intellect, if you're somebody who's able to, think deductively and rationally and overall use whatever is like a necessity at your benefit to do what needs to be done, use what you have to your benefit, and you're someone who takes action, you are far beyond just ahead of the curve. You are somebody who is going to do wonders in this world, because there are not enough action takers. They say scarcity rarity is scarcity, and scarcity brings value. And right now, we are scarce of action takers. We're scarce of people who are going out in the world and going, you know what? I don't need to think about this for like a month or a week or a year. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to think about this right now and make the decision right now, and I'm going to adjust to that decision over time. See, that's the difference between a defensive and an offensive thinker. A defensive thinker is somebody who makes sure that the plan is perfect before they act. An offensive thinker acts and makes little changes throughout the plan over time. And, you know, uh, it's said that if one wants to win, one cannot play defense alone. One must attack. And I have to say that is well worded, because when it comes to the mind of a person or the actions of a person, if you're somebody who just watches the moment pass you by, if you're somebody who just allows yourself to see something that could have been something you took and you let it walk, like just, a perfect example of this is, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this video, but there's a video of this guy in class. It's a typical high school class, and the teacher decided that she was going to put a bonus question at the end of the test, and I believe it's 10 extra credits, like 10 extra credit points to the student who will ever finish the test first and looks at their paper and moves like a cow. That's literally the question, or the task. Move like a cow for 10 extra credit points. And, point being, whoever finishes the test first will flip the page over and see this question, and they'll do it. Now, the person who does finish the test first, you actually witness them turn the paper over, see the question, and hesitate. And I don't know if it's because of embarrassment, because of the fact that they think it's a trick, because of the lack of, motivation, but they simply are second-guessed by the question and think about it in a very long, they think about it for a good long while. And then the second person who finishes the test turns the paper over, sees it, and immediately just moves, gets up and moves, takes action like a cow. And everybody laughs, of course, and the teacher gives the second person the extra credit. But in reality, what really matters about that story is that the first person easily could have had those points. They had the opportunity in the palm of their hand, and instead of ripping their, tightening grip on it, they allowed it to escape and run free, and someone else who was able to take hold of that opportunity used it and to their benefit and became that person with the rewards and benefits. Now, I just think that that's really important in society's eyes, simply because of the fact that I don't know how many people I've seen have an opportunity in their lives and have just let it slip away from the fear of failing, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of standing out, which is another really dumb thing that people should not be afraid of, and just overall lack of self-confidence. I've seen many fall to themselves, and the worst part about falling to yourself and not taking hold of the moment that you had full control over is you have no one to blame but yourself. You literally cannot blame another person but yourself. And I don't know, I just think that speaks volumes in society and the movers and shakers in the world, and the people who overall are going to be something are the ones who are going to take action, and the ones who will be nothing are the ones who will retreat into their mind. So if you're somebody who is comfortable retreating into your mind, that's fine, but don't expect to be someone or something great, or don't expect to be somebody main in the world, a main person in the world, because that requires you to get out of your comfort zone and take action.